Now let's use some algebra solving quadrilaterals. Since we know that a quadrilateral has 360 degrees for the interior angles, I know then I can add all these guys up, and that's going to equal 360. So that's how I set my equation up. Angle K plus angle J, which is 5x plus 2, plus angle M, which is 11x minus 9, plus angle L, which is 8x minus 18, is all going to equal 360 degrees. So when I combine my like terms, I get 11, 22, 30x, negative 5, positive 2, negative 9, and negative 18. So that gives me negative 14, and a negative 18 is negative 32, plus 2 is negative 30. I set that equal to 360. So when I solve for x, add 30 on both sides. 30x equals 390. Divide by 30, and x equals 13. So now that I know x is 13, I'm just going to go back and plug in 13 for each value. So angle K is going to equal 6 times 13 minus 5. Angle J is going to equal 5 times 13 plus 2. Angle M is going to equal 11 times 13 minus 9. And angle L is going to equal 8 times 13 minus 18. So I am just plugging in those values and then solving. So after I do that, I'm going to get that angle J is 67 degrees. Make sure to put degrees on there. Angle K is 73 degrees. Angle L is 86 degrees. And angle M is 134 degrees. And then, of course, when you add those all up, we should be getting 360 degrees. So that's how you check your answer. Okay, let's see. We already talked in that first video about the properties of a quadrilateral. So we're going to place a check mark in the properties that apply to each one. So a parallelogram does not have exactly one pair of opposite sides. Who has that? A trapezoid has that. So both pairs of opposite sides are parallel. That would be a parallelogram, a rhombus, a rectangle, and a square. Opposite sides are congruent. We know that a parallelogram, opposite sides are congruent. A rhombus, a rectangle, and a square, opposite sides are congruent. 4 congruent sides would be a rhombus and a square. And then 4 right angles would be a square and a rectangle. So hopefully you got all those checked off. Now let's look at the shapes using the markings. And let's classify each figure using the name that it describes best. So here we have 4 right angles and 4 sides that are congruent. So we know that's going to be a square. Number 11, it's a trapezoid, only one pair of parallel lines. Number 2, we don't know anything. We don't know if they're parallel. We don't know if they're congruent. All we can say, it has 4 sides, so it's a quadrilateral. Here we know all sides are the same and opposite sides are parallel, so we know it's a rhombus. Number 14, all we know are opposite sides are parallel, so we know that that's a parallelogram. Number 15, we have 4 right angles, and then opposite sides are not equal, so we know it's a rectangle. Number 16, this is a trapezoid, but it's special because opposite sides are congruent, so this is an isosceles trapezoid. And number 17, it just has 4 sides, so it's a quadrilateral. Now, let's see if this statement is always, sometimes, or never true. A trapezoid is a rectangle. Never. Never. Number 19, a rhombus is a parallelogram. It is always a parallelogram. A square is a rhombus. A square is always a rhombus, and it's always a rectangle. A parallelogram is a rectangle. Sometimes, not always. Sometimes it can be a rhombus. Sometimes it can be a square. So that's how we fill that out. If you're having questions about how to classify, come and see me.